All right, here we are at yet another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, Bill. Hey, everybody.
Here we are, podcast number 456. And today's podcast title is Jaw Dropping an Easy Virtual Creative Real Estate Mailbox Money Manual. And the description reads like this. Mailbox money. What if I told you that right now, in today's market, everyday people are quietly building this consistent monthly mailbox money empires without risking their savings, dealing with tenants, or even working more than a few hours to set up each passive ATM machine? The truth is, there's a forgotten approach to real estate that big players hope you never discover. Why? Because it is so simple and so easy to do, it doesn't require their expensive coaching programs. Doesn't depend on borrowing money, having debt, or any risk at all. Not only that, it makes real estate investing look like a fool's game once you see how crazy obvious and counterintuitive it is. Most choose to explore and implement when trying to retire early or replace overworked for income in the real estate game. And the biggest hint is today is not about wholesaling, buying with no money down, or other people's money, house hacking, or chasing distressed sellers. Actually, most don't even need a seller script when they do this deal, right? They don't need a seller script when betting these. I can't see my writing here, so I'm going to read it again. So most don't need a seller script when getting these "is that possible" type of transaction. So let's go over it.
Okay.
So let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So we record these podcasts on Thursday mornings, 9:30 a.m. And you can join them if you go to Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Just type in Flipping Houses for Rookies and you will find them. Also, if you subscribe to us and like us when we pop on for a new video, you'll get the information and you'll know what's going on. So make sure you do that. And if you actually leave us a 5-star review and you would like some prizes for doing that, mostly my How to Make $5,000 mini course. How do you make your first $5,000 mini course? You can do that. We were selling that for a couple $100 and you get that for free. And I also throw in some of the scripts and calculators and stuff like that. If you take a picture of your 5-star review and send it into flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com. Also, if you go to creativedealologynewsletter.com/subscribe, that's creative real estate dealology newsletter.com/subscriber. Join my new free newsletter. I send them out on Saturday mornings, and it's all about dealology, means the study of deals. So it's all about deal structuring and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great way to get a quick read on a Saturday morning while you're having a cup of coffee and get a little bit of real estate information to advance you into making a new deal. All right, good. So here we go, Peter. Have you ever heard of this? Money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah, I have a lot of trees in my property. Found no money. Nope. They cost me money. Nope.
All right. Well, the truth be told,
Oh.
I'm a guy who makes a living collecting money out of thin air. So I believe money grows on trees. I had this conversation with my daughter last night because she works for a university and she's a big shot, and she's She makes a pretty good chunk of dough, and she was telling me about this, that she had this realization not too long ago, and I would think she would have had it a long time ago, but evidently not.
Mm.
That she was talking about doing a new curriculum with one of the mucky mucks at the college, and she wants to do something with Taylor Swift because she's a big what they call Swiftie, and
Oh,
she wants to take Taylor Swift's songs, which are poetic, and bounce them up against like classic poetry
wow.
and make that a class.
That's a
And
pretty
she's,
big ask there. That's a lot to ask.
she's pretty smart. So, and I don't say that because she's my daughter, it's just because
No,
when it comes to English language, she's smart. She's
no.
pretty smart.
I'm not saying Jesse. I'm saying it's a lot to ask of Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah, well whatever. Yeah.
Woo.
In any event, uh, she started talking about because it's she's trying to generate some income for the summer, right? And she came. That's when she popped out, and I realized that it's not about the hours I put in. It's like that I could just do something like this, and it's just so crazy I could make money with that idea.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, well, I've been doing that for 40 years. She goes, I know, that's why I'm telling you. You understand? I'm like, yeah.
Mm.
So, I'm not bragging about that. There's a lot of people like me. That's how you make money out of thin air, right? So money doesn't grow on trees; it grows in thin air,
Hmm. Well,
right?
you need a good idea.
Yeah,
Everything. Even if you want to pick up wood in the forest, bring it into town and sell it, you have to have the idea first.
right,
Something.
right. So I'm one of those guys that makes a living collecting money out of thin air and helping others, ordinary people like our listeners, get an edge in life through the power of real estate wisdom. Right, because I love real estate. Anybody that knows me knows that I just love real estate, right?
Oh yeah.
In today's age, we have this thing, Peter, called information inflation,
Hmm.
right? Where most common folks are overwhelmed with information, but starving for wisdom.
Oh yeah.
And wisdom simply means knowledge with experience, right? And I get asked a lot, but Bill, well, I'll just read what I say. Most ask me, how do I get experience if I can't find a deal or do a deal or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, too many people resort to free videos, YouTube videos, or
Hmm.
even like this podcast, you know. And I will tell you, the biggest, baddest, deepest, darkest secret in the world of information is, I mean, I try not to do it here, but I'm sure it happens, right? Because I get nothing for this podcast. A lot of people do podcasts because they're looking for clients and they're doing it. I mean, things have happened because of the podcast, but they're completely by accident. I mean, when you have 456 podcasts, something's going to happen. But I don't do
Hmm.
it for that reason. I just do it to give back, right?
Yeah.
And there are others out there that do the same thing. I'm nobody special. The point is that when somebody's teaching on a video, a YouTube video, it's usually they'll tell you what to do, but not how to do it. And
Exactly.
the how to do it is what costs money,
Hmm.
right? So it's how good can you be that actor or actress on just showing people how to do things, and especially if you come up with very esoteric. Esoteric means, you know, very secretive and very hard to learn because nobody will tell you,
Hmm.
right? So, anyways, so today I'm going to cover this one simple exact point is how you could actually create this ATM machine. And it seems like it's theoretical, but I promise you by the time we get to the end, everything's going to come together, right?
Oh hell yeah. This you don't do theory. You do like real life here, folks. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So creative real estate is made to do, not learn. And it's made to take money out of it, not put money into it,
Hmm.
if you know how, right? And that's the trick because as humans, for some reason, we like things complicated.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure we think if it's more complicated, it must be better. But oh no.
I have a friend of mine I was working with the other day. He's trying to do some stuff on, he's trying to sell some stuff online, mostly books. And I told him, he's going to go do research. I said, you should go to Plexity. AI, Plexity.ai. They're great research, artificial intelligence. Oh my God, Peter, this guy's an engineer. He's smart as hell, got a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get on the phone. He was texting me because he didn't understand that it was just one stream. And on the bottom, there's a box where you could actually keep the stream going. And he
For
just had
the,
a
for the AI, for the questions.
he just had a mental block on it.
Wow.
And spent 20 minutes trying to show him how to do that. It was crazy.
Okay, you know what's weirder than that, Bill?
Yeah,
I know how to do that.
there you go.
I do that all the time, and I'm not the engineer. But yeah, but as soon as he learned it, he was fine, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you got it, you got it. But when you don't got it, you don't know what you don't got. So you just got to get it.
So creative real estate is made to do, not learn, and it's made to take money out of it, not put money into it,
Mm.
if you know how, right? And you should not be risking or putting anything into the meal into the deal. Never. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to cover that today. And I'm going to cover some things today that I have no idea why it's like this, but it is. I mean, it's so freaking obvious.
Hmm.
It took me 20 years to figure it out. Actually, 25 years to figure it out.
Hmm.
So it's I can understand it, right? So here's an important part of your success from today forward. Because most every type of information in today's society, mostly because of the internet and cell phones, is diluted and devalued.
Hmm.
Most information that you get today is common information that most folks know, and you think it's important. You think you got some special, some special place to get that information
Mm-hmm.
that nobody else listens to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so most information is diluted and devalued. So I could spend the rest of the podcast just talking about this, but I tell my mother all the time, who's 82 years old, when you watch TV, what are you watching? She goes, a movie. I said, yeah, well, how was the movie made? She said, with actors and actresses. Exactly. They're scripted. Their words are edited, right?
Yep.
Scripting means that the words were designed before they actually came out of your mouth. They were practiced, they were rehearsed, they were put together. So that's where the dilution starts. That's where the devaluation starts, which was the mid 50s when in our society, which is 75 years ago at this point, where TV came online, right?
Yep.
Right. So these dilutions and devalues, right, are like our government just printing trillions of dollars and just making money worthless or less valued. And now they want to poke at the president for wanting to bring, because I think inflation is too much money, not enough products.
Sure.
Right? Got one house to sell and 20 people want to buy it, the price goes up. So that means the best thing that you could do for inflation is get production back in. And I think it's kind of funny whether I believe in tariffs or not there's still a jury out for that. But the president of the United States at this current time is trying to get tariffs through. And really, if you think about it, this country has outsourced its production and printed tens of trillions of dollars. That's why we have inflation,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't really produce much. We produce information, and we've become a financial institution, which is like the stock market. We buy and sell the same damn money all the time. And how many times can you buy it and sell it and make money?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Sooner or later you're going to have to produce the car for the money that the money's needed for. You need to have a house or produce a house, you know what I mean? And this country has the lowest production it's ever had because it's all been outsourced.
Yep.
Right. So I think I give the president of the United States kudos for that, for trying to get the production back into the country and putting up with all the badgering that he's getting. Now, I'm not saying it's just my opinion on production, right? So information is the same way. There's just so much information that you can believe anything you want. If you have a point, you could go find something and prove it,
Oh, sure.
right?
You can. Yeah, you
So,
can. Yeah. You can always find something to back up what you want to believe. Sure.
so even though people don't value information as much these days as they did before, it's still, and this is the important point, it still only takes one idea to change your life or your current situation.
Yep.
It takes one idea. How many times have you scanned back into your life and say that one idea, I'm so glad I did that,
Oh, sure.
right? And things just changed after that, right? So I can't tell you how many times I will talk to somebody because I'm back to doing free 45-minute consultations. I do them a couple times a week, right? I do coaching in 3 different groups, my own group and Creative Area Reply, and I do coaching for another guy. And so I'm face to face with people, which is my uh, I guess I don't know what it is. It's my secret, I guess. It's not really a secret because I say it all the time, but it's why I'm able to do some of these podcasts because I'm face to face and hear the problems and have to solve them right in front of the guy or the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a Zoom video. It's like I have to give them an answer and then come back next week and say, did you do it? And did it work? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is the reason why Creative REI Reply is such a great software, is because every Thursday night we do a 60 to 90 minute, usually a 90-minute support call. So all the shit that doesn't work, people come on there and bitch about it. So my goal is to not have them come on there and bitch about it, which is
Sure.
kind of where it's at. So the software's just gotten good because we know where all the bugs are, right, and all the problems. So I can't tell you how many times I'll be talking to somebody and they tell me their life situation, and we'll go through it, and I'll give them one good idea, or we'll come up with one good idea, and I just watch their physical beingness just change. They brighten up, their frowns go away, their smiles show up. It's actually absolutely exhilarating. So I know from firsthand information, one good idea changes your life, and it's even better than that one big idea, because everybody's looking for that one big idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which will change your life, but uh, it's usually the simple and obvious decisions that makes the difference. You know, I will tell you, because I won't preach on this, but I will tell you that the most guaranteed way to be a millionaire or be very wealthy is only one solution. Only one solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's your habits.
Ah.
How you conduct yourself throughout the day and the weeks and the
Mm-hmm.
months makes a difference. And I tell you, I just had a conversation with a big guru last night, and I was we were talking about this and talking about that, right? And I said to him, dude, I got to tell you, one of the best books I've ever read, is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It is, the way he wrote that is just incredible, and it's all about that. So,
Mm-hmm. It's an incredible read. It's an
yeah.
easy read too.
Did
It's
you finish it?
No, I switched over to your book to
Oh,
push through that one, but I'm
yeah,
halfway through that, halfway through yours. But it's amazing how he puts it, because you think it was written yesterday,
right. Yeah,
and it
yeah.
wasn't.
This was written 1938.
And it's still happening. Man, what if he had released it back then? Maybe we'd all be a little better off by now.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's use it
All
though.
right, so the one big, let's just get into enough chit chat here. So let's get into it. So the one big secret that's in plain sight, and not enough rookies or real estate people dwell on it, is what I call the rent to own method. It's a little bit different than what most people think it is, right? That's a term that we use because that's what people recognize.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a word that it's a way to explain it. It's actually a lease option. It's actually a sandwich lease option, which is much like our slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, right? But the sandwich lease option transfer, you don't stay in the deal. So if you want to know more about the slot deal, then go over to podcast number 455, and we fully explain it over there. I just went over this, and you can find out how it works and what to do with it, right? Actually, in the book that I just wrote, which you were just talking about, it's called Cash Flow Freedom.
Mm,
Is the rent to own section. It's cash flow freedom.
yeah.
And the name of the book is called Leads, Deals, Cash, the Creative Real Estate Operator's Manual. So, Peter, you're just reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it an operator's manual or isn't it?
Oh no, it is. The simplest way to say that there's so much data in real estate, or in any subject, but real estate, there's so much data. When you're new at this, you're just swimming and you don't know where to start. So, of all the things you did with the book, besides explaining everything, you put it in this intelligent sequence so you know where to start.
Right.
But you can't start in the middle. You can't start with $100,000 because you don't have $100,000. You don't have
Right.
$1,000,000. So it starts from the beginning and lets you get into the business and learn it as you go.
Yep.
That's big.
Yep. Well, thank you. So it's called Leads, Deals, Cash, the Creative Real Estate Operators Manual by William Hawthorne. And Hawthorne has no E at the end. You could just go to Amazon and grab a copy there if you're interested, right? It's actually moving beyond the quick profits and wins of this deal structure, which we're calling the cash flow freedom. It's actually moving beyond the quick profits and wins of the slot deal and the option deals, which we talk about all the time, and into a strategy that's focused on long-term, substantial cash flow, right? And it's actually the rent-own reimagined, right? This is not your typical rent-to-own scenario where payments are applied to a principal reduction. This is why I don't make when I sell a house, I don't say, house rent to own, because too many people, especially the younger folks, believe that there should be a principal reduction because there's too much information, inflated information of people that don't do it for a living like I do it, and say that you should the only way you do a rent to own is if you get principal reduction. And that means that, if you're paying $1,500 a month, you should get $500 a month towards the price of the house to reduce the price of the house. And it doesn't work that way. That's a myth, right? Instead, we're engineering a system to generate income now, income monthly, and income later. So it's money now, money monthly, money later, right?
Yep.
And if you and the thing that I show you in the book is, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to go back. I'm going to just let it. So, and to be clear, rent to own. This approach allows you to create a consistent income stream and build wealth at the same time, over time, right? And to be clear, rent to own versus a slot deal is more like a marathon, not a sprint. So rent to own is more like you're going to do the 25-mile run, and the sprint, is going to be just, because the slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer, many make $5, $10, $15, $20,000 within 30 days. Because you're in and out of the deal and you collect your money and there you go.
Yep.
So the first key distinction lies in the timeline and intention of the deal. So the slot deal is designed for rapid transaction and the one-time chunk of dough by assigning the deal. If I would have to position a slot deal to anything else, it's like you're wholesaling lease option deals. So you get a seller to give you a 3-year lease option, you go wholesale it to your buyer, and they pay you 5% for it. So if the house is worth $400,000, $20,000, 20% is $20,000. You mark the price of the house up 5%, and that 5% goes to you for assigning the deal, for finding and assigning the deal to the buyer, and the buyer gladly pays it because it's going to go towards their down payment of the money of the house. Right. So in contrast, the rent to own strategy is about holding the property and creating a consistent income stream. It's about playing the long game, right? Without being a landlord, right? In a slot deal, you're primarily a facilitator of the transaction, right? So it's like you're being a realtor, but you don't have a license, so we do it differently. But it's kind of like that. You're just facilitating the stuff that that the way the transaction goes. So Pusher says, thank you guys for sharing info. You're welcome.
So, there's an interesting comparison that just dawned on me. A realtor sometimes helps get a rent for an owner. Like if the house doesn't sell or somebody just wants a rent, you can have a realtor find you a renter,
right?
And they make a month's salary or something, a month's income from that, right?
They make the rental month, the monthly
One
rent.
month's rent, they'll give it to the realtor. So it's kind of what we're doing, except we don't have the seller doesn't have any landlord obligations in the slot deal,
Right.
right? So it's still better than what they would find in that scenario.
All right. So the thing that nobody talks about, and I always have trouble when I do this with the podcast because I could do a whole day seminar just on this one thing.
Yeah.
It's test before you invest, right? So test before you invest. I mean, people do it in the stock market. We do it in marketing. We do it, we do it everywhere, anywhere we can. I mean, even you go to Costco's or BJ's or sometimes Walmart, and they got those people standing there like, "Oh, try this little
You're right.
piece of meat or whatever." Test before you invest, right?
Sure.
So
Before you buy the 50-pound bag of
yeah,
Doritos that you might
I
not
mean,
like. Duh.
relationships are the same way. You test before you invest. It's just a natural thing to do, right? Before you get fully involved. So when you're doing a slot deal, you're testing. So the magic of real estate is the buyer pays you all your money. So you have to test. So and the seller gives you a property on consignment or on some sort of an agreement to allow you to go find the buyer. I mean, that's what realtors do, right?
Sure.
They get a realtor, they get a listing agreement that doesn't cost them anything, and then they go find a buyer, and then they bring the offers back to the buyer. So when you test before you invest, you don't even need to learn career real estate. You just do it because the buyer is going to tell you, "Oh, I'll do this, I'll do that," and that's your offer to your seller, right? You don't even need to do that anymore, right? It's just too clever, right? So the point is that if you don't have inventory to attract buyers, then you don't have a chance of making any money because the money's coming from the buyer.
Yeah.
If you want to make 5, 10, 15, $20,000, you have to have inventory to attract the buyer that will give you that 5, 10, 15, $20,000. Otherwise, you're a broke artist,
Mhm.
that has a bunch of art that never goes to an art show.
Yep.
His house is full of art, but there's no, or a musician that just plays in his basement and never joins a band and never tries to do anything,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's what it's like, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that the way to test the market is with the slot deals and with the uh, option deals, because if they want all cash, you got to do options, right?
Right.
So we've covered that in other podcasts. So the point that I'm trying to make here is as you go down the deals, which is what the book talks about, is when you get down to rent to own, you're not testing the market anymore. What you're doing is you're testing how to make money now, money monthly, money later.
Hmm.
You're still not investing. You're still getting a rent to own from the seller, and you're still testing how could I make this much a month. I mean, make this much down, make $5,000 down, make $500 a month, and still have 20 grand in the back end without investing anything, investing $100, and that's it.
Yep.
Right. So the strategy works, but um, it's testing your your ability to do this. It's a testing and evaluating your ability to be able to handle the payments and the transaction. It tests your ability to find a good tenant. It tests your ability on doing background searches and it tests your ability to sell a house, for a long term and make a relationship with somebody and have them keep their agreements. It tests your ability on whether or not you evaluated the right person to purchase. There's so many things that it's testing while you're investing, but you're not putting money into it. Now, podcast number 457, which is the next one, I'm going to go into subject to deals where I'm talking about uh, testing before you're investing because even when you go into subject to deals, you're putting just a little bit of money in. You're putting in $5,000 or $10,000 if needed,
Hmm.
right? You're still testing before you invest.
Yeah.
It's not until we get to stage 5 where we actually start investing the money. But we've been making money all along, and that's the best part about my 6-step system is we made money from the slot deals and we made money from the option deals and we made money from the rent to own deals. Now we actually have money
Hmm.
to invest in our deals, which is the next part where we have $5,000 to put into a subject to deal and we have $10,000 to put money down, right? Uh, So, Pusher, says that my dad owes 60 grand on his house. The house is worth $600,000. Can he refinance it, or can we buy another house from this house? What's the best option for him? I think if he could, um, go get a home equity line on the equity he has, and then use that home equity money to go buy another house.
Mhm.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah, we've done that. I wrote a check from one of mine. We bought a house and went from there and made good money. So yeah, it's his own
Right.
house. He can. There's value. There's equity. You might as well use it.
So think of all of this whole system that's in my book that I'm talking about. Think about it as like a personal investing audit. So you're constantly auditing yourself on your ability,
Mm.
right? After all, creative real estate is made to do, not learn. So you got to keep checking yourself, and you need to make sure it's without risk. And this is how, right? After all, the best strategy in the world won't work if you're not ready to execute it properly, right? And knowing proper tenant screening, right? Contract management, right? Financial management is what skill you'll need to learn in this process.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the slot deal and in the option deal, which is the first deal you should do, which is it's all in the book, right? So you do those deals first. You test the market. You find out what your buyers want. Now you know what the market. Buyers want 3 purple bedrooms, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what sells the most. So they want a swimming pool, or they want an antenna. I don't know, whatever crazy shit they want. But after you've done a few deals, you know what the seller wants. Now what you need to do is you need to test how to get money now, money monthly, money later. Because once you start getting deeds, which is the next step, we're going to talk about in podcast number 457. Once you start getting deeds,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be still selling on lease options, and now you know how to do it. In other words, you're not going to put up 10 grand and go buy a subject to deal, right? Or take over somebody's mortgage and catch their payments up for 10 grand and then not know how to sell it. You'll have already sold a bunch of houses and know how to do it. So your confidence is high, because if you put in the 10 grand, you're like, oh, well, I know how to sell that. I've already sold 5 of them or 10 of them or whatever. Right.
Right. With each stage, you learn 3 or 4 things that are important.
Right.
And by the time you get to the stage where you have a deed and it's riskier, because if anything happens, your name's on the deed. You've learned so many things. You only have to learn the next few things for
Right.
that stage. So it's not overwhelming. Imagine doing all that at once. Like, oh, let's buy a house, renovate it, and sell it. That's way too many things at once.
Right. And everything we're talking to up to this point, the slot deal, the option deal, and the rent to own, or
Mm.
the cash for freedom, these deals are walkaway deals. They're walkaway transactions. So if the blood starts flowing in the water and the shark starts circling, you could just get out of the water. You just bail out. Yeah, you
Right.
might have a seller that's pissed off at you, but that's better than getting sued, or
Mm-hmm.
or having, because you got the deed in your name, having that debt chase, that bad debt chase your good debt,
Yeah.
right? All right, so now here's how in the manual part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we target sellers who are looking for passive income. So Kiyosaki said this best. I don't want to steal his thunder.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn how to make money or get money, this was in Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Mm-hmm.
go find someone and help them get money or make money,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So if we want passive income, the best thing we could do is go help someone else make passive income,
Mm-hmm.
right? But do not, so you want passive income that they don't want the responsibility that come with being a landlord,
Right. They
right?
want some cake and they want to eat it too, but you got to compromise somewhere in there.
Right. So this is where you will shine, right? You are officially taking on the landlord obligations, but the sweet part is you are assigning these responsibilities to your end user, or the person that's buying the house. They live there. So
Mm-hmm.
they're cutting the grass and they're shoveling the snow and putting batteries in a smoke detector and they're dealing with a furnace if it breaks and a toilet if it's clogged, right? That's what they are, right? And we do this with the lease portion of a rent to own. It's not done in the option portion. It's done with the lease. The lease that we use, which you can get in other places, I'm not the only one with it, but our lease is very, 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 very tight with that. And it's, I think, 7 or 8 pages. And it explains you're responsible for all these things. And that's how we assign the landlording, is by saying, if you get into this deal and you live here and you do this, then here's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So don't call me with a broken toilet.
Right.
Right. And they will test you. Now, I will tell you, there is a little bit of a caveat to this, that especially if a house has been sitting, the first 30 days, which if you are clever,
Mm-hmm.
which we tend to be, you're going to get the seller to cover any problems the first 30 days.
Sure.
Because the house has been sitting. Like I got one right now for my friend. The house been sitting for 7 months while they're trying to sell it. So as soon as somebody goes into that house, there's going to be things that might happen. A faucet might leak, the hot water heater may not work, they tripped a breaker or something, right?
Sure.
It's just how it is. So the first 30 days, you're going to guarantee whatever.
Well, that's like
right?
you buy used cars, don't they do that?
Yeah.
So it's typical. It's fair.
All right. So here's the mathematics on it, right? What happens is, and I'll tell you this, and then I'm going to back up for a second, right? So in a rent to own, or as I call a cash for freedom deal, we are going to get 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. Otherwise, we don't do the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, a slot deal, an option deal, and a rent to own that I'm talking about, none of these you put money into it. So if you need $5,000 worth of work, like rugs and paint, you are not doing that because you'll never get your money back. So don't put money in these deals. You don't put money in your deal until you get a deed, which is the next one, which we'll talk about on podcast number 457. And that's subject to. Subject to means taking over somebody's mortgage, and they put the deed in your name. But I'm going to tell you, I have a seminar that I do that's a 6.5 hour seminar, and I usually charge several $100s for it. And I'm going to give probably about half to 3/4 of the information at seminar that I usually charge for in next week's podcast. Just because I don't know why I'm doing it. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that a slot deal, when you're on the phone with somebody and you explain to them, we're going to give you 35% over market value of this property because you're going to hold it for 36 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, go back to podcast number 455. I explained how that works, the 35% and all that stuff. But because they're willing to wait, we're going to save them the closing costs. We're going to show them how to cash flow. We're going to show them how to get principal reduction. We're going to show them how to get depreciation and appreciation, and all that adds up to about 35%. If you use our calculator, we have a calculator that you can use, and it shows them how to do that, which is how we get our slot deals signed up. Because a lot of people are like, I tried to talk to people about slot deal. They don't want to do a terms deal, meaning they don't want to pay monthly. It's because they're not bribing them. Like Alex Hormozy says, you got to give them the Grand Slam offer, which is where we came up with a Grand Slam script. I stole it from him, and we give them such an unbelievable deal that they can't say no, right?
Yeah, we were always looking for more benefits. So if they're going to wait, they have to have benefits. But we really refined it with the Grand Slam offer. But it's always, if somebody's going to wait, there has to be an upside to it and benefits.
A reason for them to do it.
35% over market's a damn good one for starts.
Yeah. So, plus we eliminate the 15% closing cost. So it's really 50% if you really think about it. But here's the point that I'm trying to make right now is that when you're talking to somebody about doing a slot deal, they'll be like, I don't want to deal with the payments. I don't want to deal with them. I know it's landlord free, but I don't want to have to worry about it. I don't want to have to do any of that. It's a very easy conversation once you've presented the slot deal to them and say, well, if you want me to manage it, I have to get 15% worth of equity and 20%, minimum of 20% worth of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And you automatically just walk into this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And they're ready for it at that point, right? But that's just another thing. So here's the craziest part: if they sell with a realtor system,
Mm-hmm.
well, let me back up for a second. Let me back up a second. So on our option agreement, a $300,000 house value, not needing repairs, they would only get 255,000 for it. Or if they
Mhm.
use a realtor, right? 5%, 5%. Anyways, I don't know why that's there. So
After closing costs?
yeah.
Right.
So here's the craziest part. If they sell with a realtor system and incur all of the normal closing costs, that's about as much money that they're going to get anyways. Is a 255. I mean, if you just go on Zillow nowadays, it shows the closing costs is between 9 and 12%. And
Mhm.
Zillow is not 100% accurate, but for sure they're not gonna talk about the realtor fees on Zillow because they're trying to sell realtors
Mhm.
the things, right?
Mhm.
So the interesting thing is the benefit that they would receive is, like I just said a few minutes ago, because they hold the deed, because a rent to own, they still have the deed in their name.
Mhm.
They're going to get, like I said, cash flow, principal reduction. They're going to get depreciation and appreciation because we're going to write that into the option agreement. But more importantly, one of the things that we don't talk about enough, because there's not a mathematical way that we could explain to the seller how this works, because everybody's got a different number, they get the mortgage interest reduction. I have properties I pay $8,000 or $10,000 a year on principal. I'm sorry, on interest alone. Subject to deals where I pay interest alone, and I get those deducted right off my taxes.
Mhm.
So if I pay $8,000 a year in interest on my mortgage, then it comes right off my taxes. I have $8,000 worth of less money that I have to claim,
Yep.
right? And that's huge for the seller. We don't even talk about that. So the benefits of them doing this is just magnificent, right? And these deals, see, with a slot deal, we do 36 months. I do my lease options for no less than 7 years.
Mm.
Often it's done for 10 years, right?
Mhm.
And if done correctly, they will exceed the 15% that they get for a cash discount. So let's say
Ah.
let's say the 15% is $45,000,
Mhm.
right, on a $300,000 house. If they go 7 years between the cash flow, principal reduction, appreciate, well, I won't give them appreciation because I'm keeping it, but depreciation and the mortgage interest, right? They'll exceed that $45,000 usually by 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
So they're not losing money. They're just diverting it or kicking the can down the road and getting it later. They're getting
Mhm.
it every year.
Right.
So it's all about explaining to them how this works that makes the deal, right? Does this make sense?
Right. Yeah. It's funny when I talk to people. Sometimes they say, "Well, how long do I have to wait?" I said, "What do you mean? The longer you wait, the more money you make." Like what? The longer you wait, the more money you make.
Right.
Oh, it's not like they're having to wait for something to happen. Like it's happening as you go, and with a big benefit at the end, which is great. But all along, they're making more money. So
Yeah. So the easiest way to explain it to a seller is it's like a retirement account.
hmm,
Every month it grows.
cool.
Right? It's like having an IRA or a Roth, well, not a Roth IRA, but having an IRA or a 401k. It's like working at your job, and every week you put money in. You put $5 in your paycheck, or $25, or $50, or 500, or wherever you put in there, and then sooner or later you wake up one day and it's like, oh my God, I made $500,000.
Hmm.
Right? It's the same exact thing, right? And the reason why I do 7 years on my lease options is because I know that I put people in for 2 years, which these days I change, but and it takes one out of three will actually cash me out. So if I put somebody in for 2 years, they don't cash me out, I take them out. Put somebody else in for 2 years, if they don't cash me out, I take them. And so that's 6 years, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, and then
Hmm.
I add the extra year to get them in and out of the property, so I have plenty of time.
Right.
Right? It's just a safe way to do it.
Uh-huh.
Right? So the seller gets all of that money plus a consistent passive income stream without any of the typical landlord responsibilities. This is a fantastic strategy for retiring early and burned out landlords. Right? The tenant buyer gets on the path of home ownership and a doable strategy towards that home ownership, because we're going to
Hmm.
help them. We're going to help them get qualified, right? And we
Right.
do that by using credit repair people, right? So you So the seller's happy because they got passive income, right? They had a property that they were going to rent and they got passive income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're still getting money, but they don't have all the responsibilities of landlording. The buyer makes out really good because they are getting a house they normally wouldn't be able to buy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're working towards ownership, home ownership, and having somebody help them, right? But then you got to ask yourself, what do you get? So you're going to get 5 to 10% for the down payment money. You're going to keep that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get 20 to 25% with a monthly profit. And then your equity or profit later, especially if you don't offer the seller a 3% uh, appreciation yearly, you can still charge your buyer 3%. So
Mm.
if you don't offer your buyer a 3% appreciation, you can pick that up yourself. So if you don't have to pay your buyer that, then you pick it up. So on a
Right.
$300,000 house, that means you're making $9,000 appreciation per year,
Mm.
right? And if
So
you
that
just don't,
part's so that part's a variable. Like, how do you decide when you offer that or not offer that?
I just don't offer it. It just
Mm.
here's what happens: is the word is propitiation.
Mm-hmm.
Propitiation means you're giving somebody gifts and being nice to them, so they'll be your friend
Mm.
or they'll be an ally of yours, right? Like a lot of people propitiate the employees and
Mm-hmm.
spouses, and propitiation is giving gifts, right? So I don't propitiate. It's like, here, the most powerful statement I have in my whole conversation is, here's how it works.
Right. So you just do it that way.
Yep.
And if somebody came up with, do I get the appreciation? It was a deal breaker. Maybe you do it.
No, they don't ask those questions, because what I
Yeah.
have to say to them is at some point I'll have to say to them, what would have to happen for me to make a deal with you today?
Hmm.
And then they'll pinpoint the exact sticking point of my conversation with them.
Yeah.
And if it happens to be that they feel like appreciation is the problem, then I'll share.
Yeah.
But it doesn't
That
happen
makes
very
sense.
much.
That makes total sense. Like, if the deal is fine, leave it alone. If you need it,
Right.
you keep it as a bar. Why give it away in the beginning? You could
Right.
use it as a bargaining chip. If all the rest of the numbers work and it's worth doing, then you just do it.
Yeah. The number one problem that most people have on the phone is they're begging.
Yeah.
They're either begging or giving a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
They're over talking. They listen to somebody like us, and then they go off and talk about all this stuff when they don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to, in episode number 457, which is the next one, I'm going to give you probably a 3 or 4 sentence paragraph to explain what a subject to deal is to a seller, and it's magical. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so let's scoop down to the end of the podcast here. Let's do a little mini blueprint and a checklist,
Sure.
so people can write this down. If you're driving or exercising or doing something, you should come back to this podcast and write this down, because I didn't. I have it on a piece of paper, but you should write this down. So the first thing you should do is you should go to Facebook, or Facebook Marketplace, or Zillow. You're going to look for rental properties that are being advertised as a rental, right? Here's what you do, and this is the biggest mistake most do, is they look at the properties and they're evaluating the properties from the pictures, right? We don't care about the property. We're just looking to send the seller a message that says, and you should write this down, will you rent to me for a year or two and then sell it to me? Right? So this what you should do is just text. You don't look at the property. You just send a message. On Facebook, it's a message. On Zillow, it's an email or whatever they have. And you just say, will you rent to me for a year or two and then sell to me? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. And you're looking for motivated sellers, not a property. So we covered this in podcast number 455 in detail. If you need help, go there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the property evaluation comes after we find out if the seller is motivated and we make a deal and sign paperwork. Right?
Yep.
Next, when the landlord says they will do this, you get one, an agreed upon price, two, an agreed upon monthly payment, right? And I'm going to tell you the price on the property, if they say market value, just give it to them, because in 3 years from now, it's going to be worth more money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's more. You don't need to get a low price to do this deal,
Mm-hmm.
because you got time. Like my big saying is, I'll pay whatever price as long as I get to pick the terms, because that's how you make money out of thin air, is because time will help you.
Yeah.
Right. So the four things that you're looking for on this phone conversation is, you want to get an agreed upon price, you want to get an agreed upon payment, and the easiest way to get agreed upon payment is Peter, what are you paying right now for a monthly payment?
1725.
Okay, I'm going to pay that. All right,
Okay.
and there you go. And that's the quickest way to do it. And if he says no, you say, well, what were you thinking?
Hmm.
And you negotiate the difference, not the
Yeah,
1750.
right. Because you're saying we want to get 25% of
Yep.
the cash flow.
Mhm.
And if it's a real big spread and you're talking about him getting some cash flow to continue, then there's plenty of room.
Right. So, let me see.
Yeah, if that probably could generate $3,000 a month, there's room.
So all you do is you take the 1700, and you
Mm-hmm.
do multiply 1.20,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll tell you that you could say you have to get $2,040 to make 20%.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need to do. Okay, so you do that while you're on the phone. So number 2, you get the monthly payment. Number 3, you get the longest duration
Mm-hmm.
of monthly payments. So 1 is price, 2 is payment, 3 is duration, and you should get the longest. Like I said, I do 7 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And and then number 4, excuse me, number 4 is down payment only if they ask for it. But here's the magical thing with this type, with what I'm telling you, Peter.
Yeah.
When you go to people that are already renting, they will not ask you for a down payment. And if they do, they're looking for maybe 1 month's rent, or the first and last month's rent, which
I've
is
heard that.
much less than what you're gonna
Yeah.
give somebody that's selling a house.
I heard that this
It,
week. Do I get a month or anything? Like, well, if you need it, I can if you need it.
so the way you answer that question is not if you need it. You say, if I give you 1 month's rent, will that make us a deal?
Yeah.
You have to say it that way,
Oh.
right?
That's always your best question. If I do that, can I have the house? They ask a question. Well, if I do that, can I have the house? They ask the other question. Well, if I do that, can I have the house? That's a
Right.
great way to do it. All you're trying to do is get that question answered. Like, can I have the house, please? So
Yeah.
that's good. I'm going to try to remember that with any question people ask me.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah. If I agree to that, then do we have a deal? All right. So number 3 now is the paperwork. So, I will tell you that you can go to Flipping Houses for Rookies /courses. So www.flippinghousesforrookies.com /courses. And you could get my forms, all my forms, my lease options, all that.
Yeah.
Most don't want to do that in the beginning because they're a couple grand. So if you are just starting out, what you could do is you can go to eforms.com, or if you don't remember eForms, and just type into lease options in Dallas, Texas, or wherever you live, in Fort Myers, Florida, in New Haven, Connecticut, and just type in eForms will come up.
And that way it'll give you the correct for your county.
Right.
So they're appropriate and legal for your area. Good.
Right. So you could download those. I think there's a couple bucks. I don't know what they are, like $10 or $15, whatever they are, right? And you could get a lease with an option, right? But I will tell you that these are not the documents I'm talking about. You're going to have trouble with promising your seller no landlord obligations, because the eForms doesn't know how to do that correctly. You could do a deal or two and get some money in, but sooner or later you're going to have to get the right documents, buy the right documents from somebody like me. It doesn't have to be me, but it's from somebody, right?
Yep.
So, and it's because of the lease, the way the lease is written, that you're going to need to have that document, right? Then, once you download your eForms or whatever you're going to use for a lease and an option, maybe you bought some documents from some other guru or something like that. But here's what you should do next, which is we're still on step number 3. You're going to go on to LegalShield.com or anything like it. I use Legal Shield because they're really good. For $25 a month, you can get an attorney in your backyard, meaning in your neighborhood or in your city or in your state. And you could share those documents with them and say, are they legal in my county?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now they have a business section that's $99 a month, which is a lot more than paying the lawyer $300 or $400 to review them. And the lawyer that you're going to make an appointment with, they're very neutral. They work for Legal Shield, and their job is to answer your questions and get off the phone. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, doing it this way, going e-forms and then checking them with Legal Shield for $25, right? You'll do a few deals this way, but like I said, it's not what you should continue to do. You're going to need to have the documents that will assign the landlord obligations to your buyer. And
Mm-hmm.
that's done in a lease by saying you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that, right? So, most people will pay $3,500 to $4,000 for those documents.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did. I paid just for the lease option. I think I paid $3,500,
Sure.
years ago.
That's to go through the local attorneys who check everything to make sure it's right.
No, I bought them from a guru, and then I went to my attorney and spent more money.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
first you buy them, then you spend more money. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
So step number 4, the last thing is in this deal, you'll have to lose. You'll have a loose lease option between you and the seller, right? Then a more strict lease option between you and the buyer. So in this deal, you have 2 lease options. See, with a slot deal, it's just one, and you assign it. So
Right.
your buyer sees what you paid. In a rent to own, you're going to have one document saying, okay, I'm paying $250. I'm promising to pay you $250, and I'm giving you $1,300 a month, and I have 15 years, or we'll say 7 years, to pay you off.
Mm-hmm.
With your tenant's buyer, it's going to be, oh, I'm selling for $275 or $300, whatever the number is, and the payment's $1,600 instead of $1,200, and you only have 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you don't want your seller to see your lease option with your buyer, and you don't want your buyer to see your lease option with your seller. Right? So you're going to have 2 separate lease option agreements, one with your seller, one with your buyer, so everybody stays in their own lane.
Yep.
Right? So number 5, once you get the seller to sign the docs, you want to do a title search. This is not taught anywhere else. I don't know why people don't teach this. And I know why, because it costs money. But this is what I do, and this is what I prefer you to do, because my job is to keep you out of trouble and keep you legal and not get you. My job is to get you your first check. That's my job, is get you your first check so you believe this works.
Mm-hmm.
What is the name? We call that I have a name for that, and I forgot what it is. Shut up check. Get you your shut up check. Ron LeGrand named it. This is your shut up check, because once you get your first $5,000 or $10,000, everybody in your world is telling you that you shouldn't be doing this because it's bullshit. Well, shut up. Right?
It's shut up, and then you take them to dinner.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't have time to tell this story, but Dan Kennedy talks about being in his house, sitting at a kitchen table, sitting at a counter,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody's knocking at the front door, like banging, 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 banging on the front door. But he's working. He's a big time blocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like working, ignoring the guy banging on whoever's banging on the door, right? And then next thing you know, that person is on the back, sitting, behind him, banging on the glass doors, the sliding doors, banging on the doors, banging on the doors, banging on the doors, right? And Dan Kennedy's like, he was so annoyed. When he tells the story, it's much better. And he's like, what the hell is this guy doing, right? And he goes and opens the door and he says, your backyard is on fire. You gotta call the fire department. And he says he went from a pest to a welcome guest immediately. So he talks about it in marketing, because that's what it is. And this is what you're going to do with your sellers. You're going to go from being a pest to a welcome guest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you get the seller to sign the documents, and you need to do a title search. Now, I used to not do this only when I got the deed in my name, but you want to make sure that your buyer has the best chance ever to do this deal. You want to give them every opportunity that they can get to do this deal.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure that the seller does have a title, a clean title to give them.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, because you're staying in this deal, my belief system is if you once you sign the documents and before you put your buyer in the house, you go get a title search, which cost me $150,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some people pay $200. It's worth it because now you got a line in the dirt. Because realize that seller is going to have that title in their name for this 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So liens can happen, foreclosure, all kinds of shit can happen, right? And your saving grace is going to be, well, I did a title search when I purchased the property, and
Right.
here's what it showed up as. So you have a legal stance on this is my equitable interest in the property, and here's what I bought
Right.
when I purchased.
Yeah.
Right.
You offered a warrant, a property that was legal to the
Right.
buyer. You didn't do
Right.
anything wrong. If anything happens, you have that timeline that says
Right.
everything was fine up to that point. So anything that goes wrong, it's on the seller that happened,
Right.
whatever. Because
So
you got a deposit, you've been making cash flow. You
that's
don't
right.
want a buyer to get stuck.
Well, you had an equitable or a clean title to give your buyer at the time.
Yeah.
So they'd say can't sue you. And for those thinker brains out there that are looking for reasons to not do this, and
What if?
yeah, what if they do go into foreclosure? What if they do that? The point is that you've got 15% worth of equity in this property. So either you're going to have, if you need the deal, you're going to have to help them or do something about it. But more importantly, there's 15% worth of equity in a $300,000 house. That's 45 grand.
Mm.
Minimally, what you're going to do is you're going to take that 45 grand and use it to fix their problem at the closing when the buyer wants to buy the house.
Yeah.
Right. So you have enough equity, which is why I want 15% worth of equity, not just for greed, but just so you have enough money to work with and you have enough capital to do whatever happens. And when you're prepared like that, it'll never happen.
That's also why you set up the payment system that doesn't go to the seller, it goes to the bank usually, right? You don't give it to the seller because you don't know who's going to pay.
Right.
Have it go directly to the bank.
That's right. So, yeah, we're not going to pay the seller. We're going to go right to the bank. That's right. So the buyer's going to give us money, and then we're going to pay the bank. We're not going to pay it to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good point, Peter. So, anyways, so this title search is like you get a jail-free card. So just make sure you do that. So step number 6. Now you want to put it on Zillow, right? Rental site. Right now, the Zillow rental site is different than their for sale site. People get this confused. So it's been on Zillow for 7 months. No, you're going to put it on the rental site. That's a different site.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a different portion of their website. So you're going to want to put it on the Zillow rental site, and you're going to put on there, the price. You have to put the monthly fee. So you're going to put the $2,040, like we just talked about, and advertise it as I don't advertise it as a rent to own. I advertise it as house for sale, no bank qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they've got 20 or 30% down, you might convert it into a seller finance deal.
Ah.
Right? It doesn't happen a lot, but it could.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna advertise house for sale, no bank qualifying. And the reason why I do that is if you advertise rent to own, you're gonna get a lot of people calling you up and saying, well, how much am I gonna get for principal reduction? I want $500 towards my principal. And it takes you off of your script.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I have a nickname for some people. I call them the stop sign. Because everything you tell them you want to do, they want to stop it. They have some other way that it's not going to work, or we can't because, and they have all the excuses. Instead of being on your side of the table and finding solutions, they're finding ways to not do it.
So, question: if you have the rent or the lease amount at $2,000 and they wanted to do rent to own, could you say, sure, that's $2,500, and actually have it some kind of down payment assistance or something, and they would get that? It's a way for them, if they really wanted, but you have to add that to the price. It doesn't come off the price.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if they really wanted it, here's how it works.
Well, it's exactly that's right. It's exactly what the down payment assistance is they like the big thing that Peter's talking about with down payment assistance, and we got to go because we're at the end of the podcast here, and I have one more thing to cover. The big thing about down payment assistance is I used to just ask for 5% above market value,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or I'd ask for 5% down because that's what FHA needs, 3 to 5%, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that from coaching with this other guy is that you're better off to ask for 10% down, which they never have. So on a $300,000 house, they're not going to have 30 grand, but they'll have 10 or 12 grand. I mean, 12 or 15 grand. So
Mm-hmm.
what you do is you take at least 5% down to put them in the house, and then the other 5% you spread it across the term, say 36 months,
Mm-hmm.
right, or 2 years. So let's say $15,000 divided by 24 payments puts them at $625 a month, which you can't do, right? In any event, so it'd be 36 months. Forget about the numbers, but the point is that the down payment assistance is above and beyond their payment.
Yeah.
Their $1,900 or $2,000 a month payment, whatever you're going to charge them. The $2,040 a month is what we said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now they're going to pay $2,040, and then the down payment assistance will do a principal reduction.
Mm-hmm.
It's above and beyond their mortgage, is what Peter's talking about,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it also increases your cash flow. All right. So number 7, collect the applications, the background checks from Zillow, and choose who has the most down payment and the highest monthly rent and the least amount of a colorful background.
Okay.
So you want the highest deposit, highest monthly rent, and the least problems or colorful background.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No evictions, no court orders. Like one time I was away, and my youngest daughter Emma, who used to work for me, was trying to rent the property, and she told me about this girl that was like, "Oh my God, she's the girl," because you have to realize everybody's an actress. They're all going to tell you the best part about their lives, not the bad part.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just human nature. Everybody does it, right? And she's telling me all about this girl. So I said, "Did you do a background check?" She said, "Yeah." She sent me the background check, and on the background check, which Emma had no idea, there was domestic violence on there.
Oh.
And I said, "Emma, no, she's not in." She goes, "Why, Dad? She's such a good tenant." I'm like, "Domestic violence means she's got a temper and she'll bust up my house. I don't want that."
Yep.
Right. So background checks are important. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So once you do all of that, so the object of a tenant buyer or a person purchasing to own, right, with a lease payment for 2 years or 3 years, is to get as much that what qualifies them is not their credit score, it's their how much do they have down,
Mm-hmm.
how much their monthly payment is, and the least amount of background problems.
Yep.
Right? That's what you want to do to get somebody in there. And the third thing, actually, I didn't put this in there. The other thing is as far as income goes, I triple the rent. So if it's a $2,000 rent, that means they have to bring home $6,000, not gross. They have to bring home $6,000 to be in the place, whether
Yeah.
it's them or husband and wife or husband and wife kids or however it is. There has to be
Mm-hmm.
$6,000 worth of income in the house minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And once I do those criteria, most amount of down payment, the largest amount of payment that I can get, and the largest amount of income that I can get with the least amount of background issues.
Yep.
And then they qualify for me.
Hmm.
Right. All right. So we're 8 minutes after. My last statement before I go. If you've rented a place in the past, you lived in a place and rented it in the past, college, you're renting right now, I don't know, you rented for your kids. If you have rented a place in the past and already went through this process, you already know 90% of how to do this. You don't need scripts. You don't need any of that. You know how to do this, right? And today I just gave you the 10% that we call a secret because 98% of Americans don't know that they could make money this way. So that's why it's a secret, because 98% of the people don't know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now you do. So what will you do with this wisdom today? Will you just listen to this podcast and say, I entertained you and not tell anybody you listen to it? Will you tell other people about this podcast? Will you click on the link that's in the description, because there's a link in the description. Will you even try to go find that link and let me help you? Because I put some stuff in there that is magical. And I put it in there because not a lot of people click on those links, Peter. I mean, we get a lot of downloads, but the amount of downloads we get, the amount of people that click on the link, so it's like we're entertaining them, right? This is not information inflation. This is wisdom. What I just gave to you today is right out of my raw out of my business. We do this often, weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly, whatever. We do it all the time. And I have coaching clients that do it. I advise all my coaching clients how to do exactly what I just told you. And they pay lots of money for what you just heard. The difference is they're implementing. So will you? This is, if you want to make money out of thin air, you got to get into action. You got to get your feet out of bed, put them on the floor, get up an extra half hour early, and make that time to do what we're talking about. To go on the rental sites and send those texts and make those phone calls and just make something happen, right? And that's the only way it's gonna go.
And I have to add this. This is not paid advertising, but if you say to yourself, "But I'm still learning," you better go read Bill's book, because you're missing the point.
Yeah.
Start doing, stop learning, learn as you go. I mean, if you learn something, they're going to tell you what should be happening. Right. Here's how it should happen. If you just start doing it, you'll find out what really is happening. How is the market really? How are the houses, the buyers, the sellers, the prices? Find out what it really is, not what somebody thinks or says it is, but what it really is.
That book, when I wrote it, is like my legacy. I've written 7 books, but that book is my legacy. And I wrote it for my grandkids, who are 7, 5, and 10 months old. So my point is this: that book is like the fog lights in a fog. It's like shining. It's like allowing you to continue on the path that you should be on, and it shines the light on the right things to do, and it lets all the other crap fall to the side. And it's worth it. I haven't turned it into an audio book yet, because I don't know if I want to do that. Because people listen, and I don't want to be people's entertainment like this podcast. I don't want to just be an entertainer. I actually want to help people. So,
but Bill, that's what you did when I called you like 10 years ago. I said, I went to the weekend seminar. Do I need an LLC, a bank account? Do I need the lawyer yet? Do I need a checking account? No, you need to do ABC. And I did it. And in 2 weeks, I was in a house with you.
Yep.
I wasn't learning anymore. I spent 3 days. That's enough. I'm not a sit around kind of a person. So that's the difference. Stop learning, start doing. That's all Bill's trying to say.
Yep. All right, good. So we're way over our time. Thank you very much for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure you leave a comment. If you leave a 5-star review, send it in to Flipping Houses for Rookies at gmail.com, and I will send you my How to Make Your First $5,000 course, plus some other scripts and calculators and stuff that were very helpful. And hell, if you send me an email, I'll probably mail you my book if you ask me for it. If you send me your name and address and give me a week or so to get to the post office, I'll probably even send you the book for free if you want. If you leave me a 5-star review. So with that said, again, thank you very much for all your support. And podcast number 457 is going to be exciting as hell. So we'll talk to you in a week or so. Have a good week. Flourish and prosper. Thanks for listening. Over and out.